Welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Kathleen Hennessy, and I work with Monrovia's PR agency, Belmont Partners. I'll be introducing the Monrovia team in just a bit, but first, we have a few things we need to cover with you today. We are recording the discussion, so if you miss anything or you want to share it with your team, you'll receive a link in your email with the full presentation in the next day or so. You are muted and your cameras are turned off, but we are encouraging everyone to participate by asking questions. And you can do that by typing your questions in the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel. We have sales team members on hand to help answer those questions. And we do have the questions that you submitted when you signed up for the webinar today, so we'll be addressing those as well. We have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to just briefly introduce our presenters. First, I'd like you to meet Monrovia's President and CEO, Jonathan Pedersen. In addition to those roles, Jonathan is a key member of Monrovia's Plant Hunter team. Hello, Jonathan.
Good morning.
Next, I'd like you to meet Katie Tammany. Katie's official title is Chief Marketing Officer, but she's also Monrovia's Chief Trend Spotter. She's been tracking trends and helping companies prepare for the future throughout her career. Hello, Katie.
Hello, good morning.
Next up is Georgia Clay. Georgia is the Plant Selections Manager at Monrovia, which is a very formal way of saying she is our go-to expert on everything plants. Hey, Georgia.
Hello, good morning.
Also with us today is Helen Lawson. Helen is Monrovia's Retail Partnership Marketing Coach. In her new role, she is going to be a great resource for you. Hi, Helen.
Hey, good morning.
Jonathan, I'm going to turn it right over to you so we can get going.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for our 2024 spring preview. Let's get right into, first off, a bit of 2023 in review. To be honest, at Monrovia, we were a little uncertain of what 2023 was going to hold, and it has been a better year than we actually anticipated looking back at the end of 22. There was some significant financial headwinds that were starting to appear. There was a lot of talk of recession. Obviously, we were coming out of the pandemic. We had record inflation and a lot of things that were happening that really made us scratch our head looking ahead for 23. And we would say at this time that 23 was actually significantly better than we had anticipated back then. Not without its challenges, though. We certainly had some weather conditions to deal with, but that happens every year. There's nothing we can do about that. But the West Coast seeing significant rainfall, California in particular, very delayed spring, certainly got us off to a bit of a slow start. But the economy really was quite resilient. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit this morning before I bow out and we get to the exciting stuff and looking at plants. But I think there's a lot of people that are wondering, what is 2024 really going to hold? And we want to look a little bit at what we're seeing. And of course, economists quite often get this wrong. If you had gone back and look at every economist, right now, we should be definitely in a recession and the economy is not. So, people get this wrong. And it has been buoyed by continued consumer spending, even during times that the consumer has seen, obviously, cost pressures with inflation, but then also rising prices because of that. But consumers have continued to spend through 2023. The Federal Reserve came out just yesterday with not increasing interest rates. I think that is great news. As we look ahead to 2024, they are seeing what they've done with raising that interest rate, really starting to work and bring down inflation. Maybe not as fast as they would have hoped, but it's coming down and they're trying to give us that so-called soft landing. The next one is Consumer Price Index. And this one, you can look at this any day you want. It is updated by the Federal Reserve, and it really does determine a lot of what happens for pricing and just how a consumer is feeling about spending as well. But you can see where a lot of that price pressure really was, and it was energy, the cost of fuel, whether it be gasoline for our cars, natural gas. During the pandemic high, it went through the roof, as did food. And you can see core goods where consumers were out, stuck at home, and they went out and bought a whole bunch of stuff, refrigerators, TVs, and that has really softened. And I think what you can see now, when you look ahead to the forecast, it's really back to where it was as far as where consumers are spending, and that's good news. At the same time, who is your consumer today that's spending money walking through the door of the independent garden center? Quite often, they are in the 50% and above household income levels. And you can see that they have still added wealth and savings to their checking savings accounts. And you can see that gain in cash assets. And I think that's something that when we're watching the television news and they're talking about the consumer as a whole, they're including the bottom 50%. And I don't believe there are that many of that bottom 50% that are really using their discretionary income on trees, plants, flowers, and shrubs and what we sell. It really is that top 50%. And you can see that their gain in wealth has been fairly significant over the last 4 to 5 years. It's increased, not decreased. So your core customer is still sitting on a fairly large pile of cash. And that's why we have seen the economy continue to tick over. Next. This one really is about housing starts. And of course, with inflation, the Federal Reserve really had to step in and increase those interest rates. And so today, consumers that own a home are really thinking twice about whether they really want to jump to a new house. That's not me, or maybe it is, because of the cost of a mortgage today. And a lot of people are sitting on a mortgage rate of 4% or less, and they're not wanting to jump to one that's 8%. So they're in their home. But because of that, and you can see this graph on the right here, which is the single family homes inventory that are on the market, existing home sales are really low for a house that's already built because no one wants to move. And so builders have jumped in on the market, and you can see that new homes are making up a larger portion of the home sales right now than they have over the last several years. So new home construction is actually, even with what's happening with interest rates, it's actually growing since the pandemic. And it is, you can see that we are starting to build again, but it really is going to take that interest rate to come back down for people to feel confident about jumping out of their existing home and moving to a new one. I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. It means people are at home, they're looking at their existing house, and instead of wanting a brand new shiny one, they're saying, what can I do to fix my existing home? And the yard is a large part of that, because outdoor living is one of those things that we're seeing as a key trend. So I think this necessarily isn't bad news. The other good thing is those consumers that own those homes, look at the amount of home equity those folks are sitting on today. It is the highest level of home equity that we have ever seen in our economy, because the price of a home has increased. And so people are sitting on a home, they have more equity in that home, and it's locked up right now. But boy, when that gets unleashed a little bit, we are going to see a massive spurt upwards again. So home equity is a big part of this. People are sitting on quite a lot a lot of home equity dollars in their house and looking for ways to improve and increase that even more. So some of those things make us feel quite bullish about spring 24. And of course, what happens in the macroeconomics of the world, what happens in Gaza, what happens in Ukraine is certainly outside of anyone on this call's control. And those things around the world are always going to happen. We have to be mindful of it. We're seeing fuel prices increase a little bit. I'm hoping that's going to stabilize and that we aren't seeing ratchets up in spring for transportation. But so far, transportation has actually been very stable in 2023. So we're hoping and looking at some of these trends that actually look quite promising for homeowners to be spending money in spring 24. And that is what I had for you today. And I'm going to hand it off to Katie and Georgia now.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's great to get that high-level view of what we're thinking for 2024. So that was a bit about the economy. I want to talk about some other trends that are shaping what we're messaging to consumers and the plants that we're selecting. And I'm going to talk about trends, and George is going to join me and talk about the plants that go with those trends. So first, when I talk about consumer research, what are we talking about? Every summer, Monrovia conducts a major study with homeowners across the US with above average household income who have purchased plants at home and garden centers in the last year. We ask a lot of in-depth questions about their plans for the future. And this is a blinded study. They don't know that Monrovia is asking the questions. And then we complement that with ongoing monthly mobile studies that are quicker, easier. It's kind of the Tinder for plants. Swipe left if you like this, swipe right if you like this. And we get really in the moment learnings about color choices and other trend information that we can utilize in plants that we select and in the stories that we choose to tell. So a few highlights that I want to share today. One is that the connection that people are making between gardening and plants and feeling better, having less stress in their lives, that has been increasing since 2020. We thought that this was a spike because of the pandemic, but really what spiked in the pandemic is continuing. And I want to call out especially the numbers that have risen in the last year. So gardening is good for my mental health and well-being. That continues to go up. Gardening allows me to, just get my mind off of worldwide events. That continues to rise as well. And what that is leading to is an increasing interest in the plants that make you feel good. That includes an interest in fragrance. We're really seeing a strong interest from consumers in plants with fragrance, in plants that make you feel better. And George is going to preview a few of those plants that do just that.
Yeah, so the first plant that I'll talk about is the Swan Lake Philadelphus. This variety of Philadelphus was selected for its heavily fragrant flowers. There are a few new selections of Philadelphus on the market that we've trialed and tested that just didn't have the fragrance that this Swan Lake has. It smells like grape soda in the best way possible. It's super sweet, super fruity, and we know from, like Katie, you mentioned, that's what consumers are looking for. Philadelphus is also a North American native type shrub, another popular category for gardeners. And then Swan Lake itself is really well branched, really tidy, and a nice mid-size at about 6 foot tall by 6 foot wide. And then next, we can't talk about fragrance without talking about roses. So for a long time, you had to decide between fragrance or disease resistance. But now with series like Eau de Parfum, you can have both. So you get this classic look, that high petal count, a fantastic fragrance, super glossy foliage, and great disease resistance all together in one type of shrub. And then next is making that connection between gardening and wellness. Camellia sinensis is the plant that you get all of your caffeinated teas from. So green, white, and black tea. You can harvest the spring new growth for those teas. And then about this time of year, of course, is a camellia, so you can enjoy the flowers as well. Typically, tea plants are more heat and drought tolerant than other camellias. They can also grow in full sun, which is fabulous, and they're quite easy to maintain at a smaller size.
So a few things you might want to think about in displays at your garden center. I mean, why not have a bench of what you call mood lifter plants? Something like the tea plant would really fit that category, as would the fragrant ideas. So another question that we always ask in our brand study is, what projects are you interested in doing? And I think the key insight I want to present here is that the one project area that you can see has risen from last year is redoing your front yard, whether that's ripping out the lawn, doing water-wise plantings, that could be part of it. But I think, as Jonathan said, people are home, they're staying there. They want to increase their curb appeal, increase the look of their home while they're there before, things turn around and maybe they sell and move up. The front yard is really their focus, which is leading us to create a lot more content and messaging around front yard and foundation shrubs, such as these.
Yeah, so Angel's Blush Abelia would be a fantastic front yard shrub. This is new breeding from Dr. Durr. Really beautiful green and white variegation with that nice pink overlay in cold weather. I realize there are a few Abelias on the market with similar looking foliage, but this is a really standout. Not only it's been a great rooter, but also it's the only Abelia in the field to remain evergreen all the way down to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's great news for those at the limit of the Abelia hardiness, and great news for that front yard shrub that you want looking great year round. And then next is Sheer Genius Cotoneaster. This cotoneaster has really beautiful, clean, green, glossy foliage. It's going to shear really well, as you can see from that photo, be a really nice option for a formal hedging plant or a boxwood replacement. It doesn't get the typical cotoneaster fruit, so it's just a really nice, clean, evergreen shrub. And then next is Emerald Boxer Ilex. This is a fabulous rounded mid-sized shrub, so 6 foot tall by 6 foot wide. In the bottom right is a photo of the mature plant in the field that has not been touched, so you can see that natural habit, very tidy. If you sell Emerald Colonnade, this would be a great addition because it's that same foliage, same disease resistance, but in a new form. And then next is Little One Holly. This is a blue holly. It is one of the only, if not the only, truly compact female blue hollies on the market. So if you wanted berries on a holly in the past, you needed a larger shrub, but this is going to be 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. So it opens up a whole new application for this berry type of holly. And then next and lastly is Golden Child Thuya. This is a fabulous 2 by 2 globe of wonderful yellow summer color. About this time of year, it's going to have a beautiful golden bronze hue. But the claim to fame on Golden Child is really its ability to hold up in full sun and heat without burning. This photo is actually one that I took after multiple consecutive days at our nursery that was above 110 degrees. We were trialing this plant, and all of the Thuya at the nursery in my trials had burnt, except for this one. And this is exactly what it looked like after those consecutive days of heat. So far superior selection than others on the market.
We are seeing a lot of interest in this plant in the Southeast. In the South, we're quite excited about it, and definitely deserves its name, Golden Child. It's a favorite. So I want to talk about other trends besides wellness, front yard, projects, and turn to some of the design trends that we're following. So one is nostalgia and romance. Now, 46% of gardeners in our survey say that gardening makes them feel nostalgic, reminds them of simpler times or time with family. And again, there's that connection between feeling better, de-stressing. Gardening also allows people to express their creativity, and creating a garden that has that romance that speaks to the past is part of that creativity. And finally, 57% of gardeners say they choose plants specifically for color. A lot of plants in this trend have big, romantic, juicy blooms. And so those are some of the ideas that we're following and marketing to Monrovia gardeners this season. And I want to start with a particularly dainty, romantic plant that we're super excited about.
Yeah, so Bridalveil agapanthus is quite dainty. It's quite compact, so 12 inches tall at most, and it just covers itself in these beautiful bright white flowers. We really love agapanthus, not only for its flower power and its compact size, but also because it's a vigorous grower. So that foliage is going to really fill out the container. It's going to really look robust in the garden. A lot of compact, especially compact white agapanthus on the market tends to be a little sparse and not super vigorous, but Bridal Veil really adds the vigor to this category. And then next is banana split Daphne. This is an improvement on all the other variegated Daphnes that you can find. It has that really bright yellow, really wide pronounced margin of variegation, and it is significantly more stable than what you can find on the market. So you're going to plant this shrub and you're going to enjoy that electric yellow foliage year round without the plant going green on you. And then next is a new addition to our Seaside Serenade lineup. It's called Kitty Hawk. We have been looking for this soft pink for a while, but we wanted something that was a little bit different, a little more unique and interesting. And this is it. You can see as the flowers start, they are a lime green. And then as they open, they go to this sort of Barbie pink. And the bract itself is quite architectural and unique. It's almost a star shape, really quite beautiful. This variety can also handle a little more sun. It's slower to wilt in the afternoon heat, and that's because of that dark green, thick foliage and thick flower. And the thick flower also allows it to last on the plant for months at a time. So that's both on the plant and cut. Great plant, great flower power, excellent rebloom as well. And then next up is a series of climbing roses. We're calling them Heavenly Ascent. This is another one of those things where we've now been able to marry the old-fashioned look and the climbing rose with disease resistance. So we're able to get these really beautiful, more compact 8 feet tall or so climbers. So great for the smaller garden, and you can see a beautiful flower on these climbers as well. And sort of the opposite of the climbing rose is the miniature rose, and that's what Itsy Bitsy Peach is. It's a mini, so only going to be about 1.5 feet tall at most. It creates this perfect little mound that is always in bloom. It blooms its head off from spring through fall. No matter where you are in the country, it was blooming beautifully, even as far south as Cairo, Georgia, all through the summer. Excellent heat tolerance, excellent mildew resistance, and a beautiful yellow, orange, golden flower. And next is this classic plant, Ito Peony. The Garden Candy is a new series of beautiful itos that require no staking at all. The flowers are held really close to the plant. They're all going to be about 3 feet tall by 3 foot wide, no mildew, and as you can see, just fabulous new colors and extra large flowers.
So as you can see, nostalgia equates to a resurgence of interest in hydrangeas, roses, peonies, lilacs, hollyhocks. Think about those classic plants that we have been loving for generations. And I think there's another display opportunity you can think about, which is maybe massing some of these beautiful color bloomers together and call them improved American classics or American classics made new. I think that would really get the attention of a lot of your shoppers who are resonating with this idea of, returning to simpler times. So another trend that we've been talking about for a while that's still, growing is what we call the Garden of Abundance. And this idea of making your garden the Garden of Eden that is teeming with life and is really productive. Moving away just from having your edibles in raised beds to thinking about how you can have ornamental edibles throughout the landscape, trees, shrubs, and then also how you can attract pollinators to the garden. 31% of gardeners say that they garden actually to attract pollinators. That is their main interest. 47% are telling us they garden primarily to do something good, to give back to the earth. I think one of the things that we're finding very exciting is interest in fruit trees that are kind of different, like figs, persimmons, smaller fruit trees. And then in terms of pollinators, coneflowers. We can't seem to produce or ship enough coneflowers to satisfy demand. Lavender, salvia, what we're seeing in agastache, lantana. So having a pollinator display and then mixing some of the ornamental, and edible trees and shrubs in other parts of your garden center to make people realize how they can use them in the landscape would be another idea.
So a new plant that fits this ornamental edible idea is our bountiful baby blueberry. This is a really lovely blueberry, super compact, well-branched habit. You can see in the bottom right that is untouched. That's just its natural habit there. So 2 to 3 feet tall by 2 to 3 feet wide. A gorgeous shrub on its own. And about this time of year, fall and winter, it has beautiful burgundy red foliage. So a beautiful bright spot in the winter garden as well. And then, of course, it does produce quite a hefty crop of beautiful blueberries that are oblong and really a nice flavor as well. And then next, a new allium that's coming to market for 24. This is Cobalt Millennium. It's a sport off of Millennium. You can see on the bottom right the difference here. You get the same large rosy pink bloom, the same long flowering period, but you just have that added feature of a blue-green glaucous foliage. Just a really unique color added to the garden. And then next, coneflowers. Katie, you mentioned we can't grow enough, and we have this fabulous new collection coming next year called Sunseekers. Super unique, tons of flowers with that multiple layer of petals. Just a wonderful flower form that is super unique to the marketplace, and the flowers stay neatly just right on top of the foliage.
So we've all been hearing a lot lately about natives. Natives have become the buzzword. I've talked to many garden center owners who talk about consumers coming in and they want natives. So we decided to conduct some research. We looked at our Monrovia gardeners, who tend to be a little bit more experienced gardeners. We talked to 600 email subscribers. And then we also put one of our mobile studies out into the general gardening population, people who say they purchased plants last year and want to continue to do so. We wanted to see if there was a difference too between those groups and just get a general understanding of what people are looking for when they say they want to buy natives. And we learned that there are definitely different definitions of native depending on experience. When we asked people to tell us, how would you describe native plants to a friend? We mainly heard from the less experienced gardeners, not really a definition of natives, but the benefits that they associate with natives, whether that's drought tolerance or low maintenance. That's really what they're looking for. And that natives have become a synonym for a lot of those things. The more experienced gardeners, when they're asked to define natives, are a little more exact with the definition. But again, asking that open-ended question led them to answer that they're looking for climate adaptive plants or climate appropriate plants, that the more experienced gardeners are actually looking for a blend of, I want cultivars that are climate appropriate and natives. And actually, we're hearing more and more people say that that they're finding that their natives do better when planted with a mix of cultivars. So there's some interesting findings that we're planning to pull together into a larger report that we'll send out to all of our customers, including regional differences in definition. If people are actually, if they're looking for natives, do they mean native to their region, North American natives? So I think this will be really interesting to a lot of you. But the big finding is the more that you can help address when people say they're walking in looking for natives, the more that you can ask a question like, when you say native, what are you looking for? Drought tolerant, low maintenance? You can direct them to a wider selection of plants. And I wanted to highlight, when we asked people, what are the benefits of native plants for both groups? We saw, attracts pollinators, drought resistant, obviously environmentally friendly. But when we asked the beginning gardener, especially, why are you interested in native plants, or what's the main benefit? Low maintenance was the idea that came up most of all to them. And I think that there's a lot of education that could happen at the garden center about what is and isn't low maintenance. And we can help you with that education. But we do know that people are looking for natives, and we do know that they're looking for, as I said, those key benefits or features that native gives, especially in drought tolerance, which is why we're expanding what we're growing that is drought tolerant, and not just for California and the Southwest, where this has been an ongoing need, but we're seeing this need in other parts of the country, particularly in, the mountain, West, Utah, Colorado. We see a, stronger interest and need for drought tolerance. We're even seeing it in the Midwest, and we're looking at plants that are cold hardy as well as drought tolerant, and we're going to talk about some of those in the coming slides.
Yeah, so the first step is Hesperalo. Hesperalo is fabulous. It's quite hardy. It also can handle full-on reflective sun and low water. Little Giant is a new Hesperalo. It's a much smaller version of Hesperalo vinifera, which is native to Texas and northern Mexico. Little Giant provides the architecture that vinifera brings, but it stays in a much more manageable size. So 4 feet tall instead of, 8+. So it's not going to outgrow your garden space. And then next is a really cool new species called Semponium. It's formed by crossing Sempervivum with Aeonium. And where most Aeoniums are hardy to around zone 9, these are hardy to zone 8. So we're bringing it into a little bit more gardeners being able to have this overwintered outside. And this is the Surreal Collection. We have 5 varieties to choose from, all really unique colors and forms. They'd be excellent for not only the rock garden and drought tolerance, but also in containers as well. And then another Hesperalo is the stoplights. This is the new and improved brake lights. Extremely low water requirement here, and that bright fire engine red flower on that 2 foot tall plant size. And Limonium Dazzle Rocks. This is a fabulous limonium. Most are hardy to zone 8. This is hardy to zone 5. So we're opening up this genus to a lot more gardeners here. Beautiful, succulent foliage and flowers that last for months and months and months. Gorgeous, fresh, and they continually produce, but they also dry on the plant. So they last for even longer. So they look excellent on the plant. They also make wonderful cut flowers as well. Fantastic drought tolerance and a great pollinator attractor too.
Yeah, and this was a big hit at our expo this summer when we had many of you hopefully come to visit us and look at new plants and see what we've got coming. This plant really turned heads. People were very excited about it.
And then we're also growing some straight native type plants that are excellent drought tolerance and ornamental value, like this white sage or Salvia apiana. You can see gorgeous large leaf in that silvery blue color. Excellent for giving contrast to darker plants in the garden. Exceptionally drought tolerant. It does produce a long flower. It is a salvia, great for bees, great for pollinators, but really the foliage is the star of the show on this salvia, ornamentally for the gardener. And then next is Teucrium. This is another California native plant, a beautiful evergreen ground cover with silvery blue green foliage. Excellent heat and drought tolerance, and then it just covers itself in those lavender pink flowers spring all the way through up until fall.
So we know that when people are, dealing with changing climate conditions, they're not just looking for drought tolerance, they're also looking for other weather extremes that they have to deal with, whether that's, extreme cold, sea spray, road salt issues. So the next few plants we want to talk about are kind of, bulletproof, can stand up to lots of different extremes, including this really lovely series of rugosa roses.
Yeah, the Seaside Swirls are a fabulous collection of rugosa roses. We have 3 gorgeous colors. They all have wonderful fragrance, excellent flower production. They also are much more compact than regular rugosa roses. They're going to stay nice and tidy at 3 foot tall by 3 foot wide, which is sort of the Achilles heel of the straight rugosa rose. They get really unruly, they're super thorny, and just get a little out of hand in the garden. But Seaside Swirls brings that all down to a manageable size. They have significantly less thorns than typical rugosas as well. So a great garden plant, extremely hardy and incredibly tough. And then next is we'll have 2 new daylilies coming to market. The first is See You Tomorrow. This is called See You Tomorrow because each individual flower is going to last for 5 days at minimum. And we trialed that extensively. We took a photo of the same flower every day from the day it opened to the day it died. And every time it was at least 5 days, and that just adds a ton more flower power. It bloomed for about 2 to 3 weeks longer than other varieties on the market on average. And then next is another daylily. It's called Sunset Sky. This is the new in our Sky series. So it has that extra large flower and that frilly edge, but this new electric orange bright flower color, which we're really excited to add to our Sky collection.
And you may have noticed this color, orange, yellow, peach, kind of, throughout this presentation. We really feel like that's an emerging color interest, color trend. So I would strongly suggest thinking about that too in your displays, what you're, showing that's new to your customer. So the last trend I wanted to talk about is what we call upscale relaxation. We call it upscale because people have been investing the last couple of years more in, outdoor furniture that's at a higher level, fire pits, outdoor kitchens, and a few stats that are interesting. Obviously this connection to nature and making people feel relaxed, that's what I presented at the beginning of our talk. But 71% of the most ambitious gardeners say that gardening is good for their mental health and well-being. When we say ambitious, we're talking about the gardeners that are spending the most and are spending the most time gardening and are coming the most to your garden center. They are the ones really saying that, a primary motivation for their gardening is to feel good, and really think about how you can make your garden center reinforce that experience. You can do that with some of the plants we're going to talk about next that are part of this trend. It's a trend about foliage, whether that's fine textured foliage like you find in ferns, or some of the broad-leafed plants, Fatsia, Colocasia, that can get this feeling of being on vacation across. The use of tropicals for a pop of color is also included in this. But think about soothing shades of foliage in the garden. That's really the main part of this trend.
And we have some great foliage coming for 2024. And the first is Stripe It Rich. It's a Japanese forest grass with that bright golden yellow foliage. And then a contrasting white stripe right down the middle, which makes a really interesting color profile and adds some beautiful texture to the garden. And next is Gold Coast Pittosporum. This is a really beautiful full-size shrub for privacy and texture. It's going to be about 10 feet tall by 8 feet wide, so a beautiful option for evergreen screen that lets in a little bit more light and movement into the garden. Really beautiful, high shine, lime green foliage with that Kelly green margin, and then a really subtle pale cream veination throughout, and it's all contrasted by a dark stem, so a really cool new plant. And heucheras, of course, are fabulous for adding color and texture to the garden. We have 2 new varieties. The first is Sienna Sunrise. You can see just how wavy and undulating that foliage is. And so you get that orange on the front, and then it's really pairs nicely with that bright pink on the backside, which you can see really easily. And then Balboa Sunset is our dark foliage version. So again, that highly undulated, highly wavy foliage, that deep purple, and again, that bright pink underside add a lot of really cool multi-tone looks to the heuchera. And we'll have 2 of the new Colocasia for 2024. The first is Pharaoh's Mask. This is a fabulous plant. It has those extremely pronounced purple veins for that 3D look. It would look perfect in that tropical landscape, either in the landscape or in a container, or an ultra-modern garden could probably pull off this Pharaoh's Mask too.
That's just such a statement plant. That's pretty exciting.
And lastly is Redemption Colocasia. We will have this for 2024. beautiful, glossy black foliage with that hot pink center. And it just gets bigger as the foliage emerges. That pink gets more and more pronounced, especially as the weather heats up. So in the summer, that bright pink is going to get brighter and brighter, and that contrast is going to get more intense.
So just an incredible selection of plants, and I think easy to see why it would be hard to pick one plant that's going to be the top one for the season of 2024, because it so depends on, you know, garden style trends, your region, how interested you are in some of these other trends that we've been talking about. And again, we are, I think, really focused on diversity, encouraging people to plant biodiversity in their landscape. So that's why it's impossible for us to choose just one favorite. I want to turn it over now to Helen Lawson, our retail partnership marketing coach. I want to make sure you have her title, her email, so you can get in touch with her new position. Helen is not new to Monrovia. Helen, as many of you know, has been our social media manager behind the scenes of our beautiful social media for several years. And now she's expanding her role to really work more closely with you. So Helen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Yeah, so if you are wondering what a retail partnership marketing coach does all day, you may know that Monrovia has coaches and not managers, just as we have craftsmen and not employees. So I think in this role, that coach word is particularly the right one, because that's how you should think of me. I am here to help you use our marketing more effectively, how to find it, how to adapt it to what you need it to do. And I'm just here to answer questions. You know, if you're looking to get into a new area of marketing, like influencer marketing or something that's just not as familiar to you, I'm that resource for you. So if you want me to join you and your sales rep on an upcoming call or just an email thread, reach out to me for that. But to start, I'd really like to point you to this resource. It's our Resources for Retailers page at monrovia.com. So you find it straight from our main monrovia.com website. And you see here the menu bar at the very top of every page. We have retailers and pros, and then you drop down that list and you can find this Resources for Retailers page directly there. And I'll also note you do see there's Garden Gateway in that menu list as well. And Garden Gateway is back, and we are rolling that out to our customers now. So your invitation is either hopefully in your email box or pending, so that we can help, you know, onboard each person with a little extra service. So talk to your rep if you're looking for that. But let's go through, and we're going to explore a little bit what else is on that Resources for Retailers page. So this you may have seen in previous years. We publish our content calendar each year to show you what marketing has coming up. And I've circled up here on top, you're going to want to look at what plant categories we're featuring month by month. And the reason for that is so that you can be sure with your rep that you're stocking the plants that we're driving the marketing programs to. So we have those marketing programs also listed out on this page, so you can see what we've got cooking. But, you know, they're called demand generating programs, and that's very literally because they're designed to have customers come in and demand these plants. So to close that loop and make our marketing effective and help you close those sales, these are the plants you'll want to plan for month by month to have in stock. Also on that page, I'll just mention quickly, we have a join your list feature that's right at the top of the page, or you can find it from the menu bar. I have a new email list I'm kicking out for you retailers to help point you to some of those things. So you're going to get all this stuff as our first send out to that list. Okay, here is, in addition to that content calendar, we're also doing a weekly deep dive. So you'll find that weekly promotions calendar too. And if you look at nothing else, I have sketched out here the 6 weeks that take you from Easter to Mother's Day. So I would really encourage you to look at this and really think about how you can plan. Oops, did we move on? Okay, there we go. How you can take what we've got going week by week. And so we've got, you know, week 14, but I'm going to specify for you here which particular dates on the calendar that means, but also what your order deadline would be for those plants to have them in place for that week. So talk to your rep and make sure you're planning to build in that time to get it ordered, in stock, and on your shelves in time for our marketing to hit. So that would be what I would call the 1.0 version of how to use that thing, this schedule. And we have plenty of plug and play resources that you can use just to tap into what we're covering. But if you want to take it to a 2.0, again, that's where I can answer some questions or give you some ideas. But, you know, look at week 15. We've got Grow Confidently Roses. Katie talked about how the romance of roses is back. So could you host a date night in your garden center and maybe make that a great shopping experience for a couple to come in and pick out some wonderfully romantic roses? The very next week, we've got our weekend project guide coming up. Could you do a workshop or a display that shows either these plants or plants that are particularly regionally specific for you that could plug into that? We've got that fragrance, the calming, healing fragrance, the feel good fragrance display for our Grow Confidently Lavender. You could tie into that. So plenty to really think about and delve into. And again, you'll all find it on that resources for retailers page. As well, you will find the Distinctive Selections Guide. We've just revamped it, just released it for 2024. Might be fun here, Katie, if we could crack the cover and look inside. Of course, we're going to have the plants that Georgia and Katie just walked you through, all of our newest, most exclusive collections, our distinctive selections, all covered in here. But also, you're going to see some insights into those trends that Katie covered. So, you know, a deeper persona profile of those customers that frankly spend the most. But then there's other research nuggets you can dive into. So here in this display section, we call out 71% of shoppers come into the garden center and buy something based off of your display. So with that, you know, you're good. We'll move ahead and we'll think about what we've got for you for display building. And Katie, I think that's on our next slide. There we go. So yes, so we have some great display formats. The display posters and the spotlights will be familiar to you, but new. We have our A-frame format, and that's a self-standing, you can weight it in the bottom, design that's meant to go on a larger shrub table or on the floor. For those larger shrubs and trees that would tie into, guess what, that foundation shrub, that front yard look that Katie pointed out. And then I'm never done until I talk about Be a Winner. This is the program that I've been spearheading and bringing to you for the past few years. We will be back in 2024. It's a win for your customers. They literally have the chance to win a free plant. It's a win for you. You're making them feel good and giving them a reason to come into the store. And it's a win for the pollinators. Who doesn't love that? And we know from that research that our shoppers really love planting for pollinators. So we'll give you that full marketing toolkit to make this very easy. We've got plug and post resources, including the sign-up form that we've built for you. It's accessed by the QR code that you see there on the poster. And that allows you to build that email list that you can use throughout the year. All right, I covered a lot pretty quickly. So I've got this recap slide. You can either grab a screenshot now, but this is coming to you when you sign up for this webinar. We also send you this recording. If you did not sign up directly for this, but maybe you got shared this link by a coworker, just join that email list I mentioned that was on the resources for retailers page. And I think you'll probably sense a theme as you look at all the links I direct you to. They're all there on that one page. But you can also find us on LinkedIn. And that's where you'll get weekly, well, actually really daily quick hits of a new little marketing tool or nugget every week. All right. I think
Thank you, Helen.
Yep.
I disappeared momentarily because I got that dreaded message that the internet was unstable.
Oh, mercy.
Everyone froze briefly, and I'm the one driving this deck. So apologies for that technical glitch, which by now we can all relate to, right? In Zoom meetings. But thank you for taking us through some of the new tools, Helen, on Monrovia.com. It's a great place to start, or reach out to Helen directly. And some exciting new plants, Georgia taking us through such an incredible selection of what we can be excited about for 2024. And Jonathan, thanks for giving us that high level view of what we can expect for next season. As we all know, we're in a new era, different times, still coming back from the pandemic where nothing is quite as it was. But we're excited. We're excited, I think, because too, we are seeing that continued trend, as I said, with the people that are the most interested in plants and purchase the most plants, really strongly feeling that now more than ever, gardening is an escape for them. Gardening is a way for them to express their creativity. And there are so many ways that you as a garden center can make that experience of the garden really come to life for your customers. Another question that we got that we didn't get to in our presentation was just that question of how does a garden center, compete, as it were, with, online sales, places where people can find plants, whether that's directly from us in the case of our holiday plant shop, or, other plants that are being sold online. And I think, you're not really competing for that, because people are going to want to purchase in all kinds of places, depending on what they're looking for, and, in their mood, frankly. And we see that whether it's, a pair of shoes or a piece of furniture, people shop everywhere. One of the things that we're seeing is with the most ambitious gardeners, they're wanting to buy plants everywhere. That's you're not going to change that behavior. But what you can do is really double down on what makes the garden center experience different from all of those. So as Helen mentioned, the opportunity to excite people and invite them to buy maybe more plants than they were coming and expecting to, really it's an opportunity for you to think about how you're going to create your displays, how you're going to make the garden center experience, not just a shopping experience, but a feel-good experience. Because I think that's really the difference that you can provide that we can't, that live in-person experience. The garden centers that where people just want to linger and go for and go to feel good are the ones that are really going to succeed in the coming years. So I'm going to turn it back to Kathleen if there are any other questions that we should answer while we're here.
We have been able to answer questions that came in as they came in. So I think, we are doing well. And even the questions that were submitted beforehand, I think we're all addressed in everything that you covered. So we are
Kathleen,
good.
I would like to just briefly go back to Garden Gateway.
Sure.
Obviously Garden Gateway was a tremendous tool that we had before we went live with Oracle. We put it on the shelf for a while because we were trying to get our system squared away and straight and didn't want to provide bad information. Garden Gateway is up, running, and has improved bells and whistles from its previous version. So if you aren't active on Garden Gateway today, please reach out to your sales rep. There are some really nice new tools within our Garden Gateway application today. It's a totally new tool. It isn't the old one. It's been totally revamped. And there are some really nice features in there for a buyer. Also nice, easy linkage back to the information that Helen was communicating with us. So Garden Gateway is a really good spot. So if you're not active there, it is a brand new website and it is a secure website. No longer can you share passwords with everyone in your operation. it is a secure website because there is also financial information within there. So, it is a really great new tool. Please reach out to your sales rep if you are not on Garden Gateway. And if you are, and you want to see further enhancements, or you've got a frustration, please reach out to us and let us know what that is. And I also want to thank any customers that were test customers over the last 6 months during our ramp up phase. Thank you very much for helping us improve the Garden Gateway application. This is Garden Gateway phase 1. We will be launching a phase 2 in another year's time, which will be an improved website up and above the one that's live now. So lots of great things coming there. Please reach out to your sales rep.
Thanks, Jonathan. And thank you all for attending. And just a reminder, you will get this whole webinar recorded as a link that you can share with others on your team.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great
Appreciate
2024. Good to see
Appreciate
you.
your attendance. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the year.
Bye.